What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Ronan here, and we got another video for you. But before we get into today's video, I'm gonna need you to take a look at the analytical stat bar right here. You guys already know the drill. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, so that way you'll never miss an upload, and you can help feed the algorithm. But with all that being said, let's get into what if Ash and Paul travel to Unova Season 2, Part 7. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's part in the exact aftermath of where we left off last time. Paul stands at the door of the Pokemon Center with Iris telling him that Team Rocket took Meloetta. While this is important, there's one thing that we have to remember here. Paul only has one thing on his mind: a rematch with Giovanni, especially after their last battle was no contest at Reversal Mountain. All these thoughts are playing in his head as he is fresh off of the battle with Marlin, but Iris is able to get through to him by smacking him on the back of the head, telling Paul that he needs to pay attention. They need help here. They have to get everything back online so that way the Pokemon can be seen. Realizing that Iris is right, because he's going to need his Pokemon looked at, he begins to help put everything back together. Slowly but surely over the next couple of hours, they are able to get everything inside of the Pokemon Center back up and running. This is where Paul asks Audino if it can take his Pokemon again and give them a look over, specifically Seismitoad and Cofagrigus. While the normal type takes his Pokemon to go look at them, Paul and Iris debrief about exactly what happened here. Team Rocket had just bombed the Pokemon Center, trying to grab the attention and draw anything away from Meloetta's room. While that happened, Meowth was able to sneak in and take control of Meloetta, sneaking it out a back way. Paul asks Iris exactly how she knows all this, and she informs Paul that Axew had been wandering the Pokemon Center trying to find any stragglers when it saw Meowth carrying Meloetta out the back way. Well, which way did they go? Paul asks. This is where Iris points out they just took Meloetta to the beach and then took off in a boat. However, they didn't head up or down the coast. They headed straight out into the ocean, in the direction of that storm that's on the horizon. While Paul doesn't really care for Meloetta that much, he does know two things. One, it seems to be tied to Zekrom in some way. And two, if Team Rocket is after it, that means that whatever their plan is has to do with it, Zekrom, and that mirror that they found at Reversal Mountain. As those thoughts are going through Paul's head, Zekrom's orb slowly starts to resonate, confirming Paul's suspicions. It's here that he tells Iris, first light, he's heading out, and he's going to go find wherever Team Rocket took Meloetta. However, Iris quickly informs Paul that it's not he that's heading out, it's we, because she's going with him. Team Rocket has been a thorn in her side just as long as they've been in his side, and she wants to make sure that Meloetta is okay. Knowing that he's not going to get out of here without her by his side, Paul reluctantly agrees. Later that night, after everyone's settled in, Paul makes a call to his brother. He's going to swap out a couple of his Pokemon. He's trading out Cofagrigus for Sigilith, and he's also going to swap out Weavile for his Gastrodon. The way he sees it, being out in the open ocean, they're going to need as much water and flying type support that they can get, and these two are the best he has for the job. The next morning, after they've gathered all the supplies that they can, Paul and Iris head to the beach, seeking any type of boat or vessel that can take them out into the open ocean. However, unfortunately, their pickings are slim, as there doesn't really seem to be any type of boats anywhere near. All the docks are empty, and there's not really any patrons in sight. There's not really much they're going to be able to do. Iris then suggests that they use their Pokemon to get out there. She can fly out on Dragonite, and Paul can swim out on Seismitoad. However, he reminds her that they may need their Pokemon to actually battle, so it wouldn't be a good idea to waste their strength actually getting there. Well, I was just trying to offer a solution to our problem, Iris says with a tone in her voice. However, what is a perceived problem doesn't remain one for long, as a familiar person from yesterday's gym battle comes swimming by in the form of the gym leader Marlin. He's atop his Wailord, asking if Paul and Iris are okay. They look like they're trying to get out somewhere. While Paul isn't really the talkative type with Marlin, as he's trying to figure out a problem to their solution, Iris fills the gym leader in, explaining that an evil group called Team Rocket stole a Pokemon, then headed out into the ocean, where we can't seem to get to, as there's no boats or anything around. While Marlin is surprised, he doesn't really seem to be upset about it. In fact, he's just really chill, much like his gym battle with Paul was yesterday. However, he does offer a solution in the form of his Wailord. Nothing in the ocean around the city is faster than it, so there's no reason why it wouldn't be able to get them out there in a reasonable time. And considering that they may need some help, Marlin says that he'll go with them. It's here that the gym leader asks where exactly are they going, and with a serious tone in his voice and look on his face, Paul says there as he points out to the storm that is off the horizon. Ooh, are you sure? Marlin says. That thing's been brewing for about 3 days now. I wouldn't go there if I were you. But Paul simply retorts, Team Rocket is there, and if they're there, that means that's where we need to be. After all, there's only one thing they seek, and it's ultimate power. If you say so, Marlin says, as they begin to sail off on Waylord's back. It takes about an hour or so to get to the actual storm, but once they hit the borders of the torrential typhoon, it becomes harder and harder for Waylord to push through the waves. Though its massive size does provide some sort of stability in the water, the size of those waves are even too big for it to handle, and our heroes end up getting tossed side to side while the giant beast does its best to navigate the choppy waters. Luckily for the trio, it doesn't take long, and Waylord is able to break into the eye of the storm, where there's no cloud coverage and the waters are calm, even with the sun shining down. This is where something captures the attention of Marlin and his Waylord. It can't be, the water type specialist says. That's supposed to be sunken. What do you mean? Paul replies. Marlin points. Above them floats a set of ruins that used to be at the bottom of the sea. Marlin confirms this, saying that he's dived this spot several times. It's somewhat of a tourist attraction in the area, if you have a Pokemon that can reach the depth, and you can hold your breath long enough, of course. Are you sure? Iris responds. Marlin says that he is. He recognizes the pillars and the artwork all over the shrine. He would know this place anywhere, but why is it floating above them? It's here that they hear the crack of a ball, and Paul has released Seismitoad. I don't know, he says, but whatever the reason, we need to be up there. Telling his frog that they need to be up where those ruins are, Seismitoad grabs Paul and jumps into the sky as high as it can, barely able to grip the bottom of the ancient ruins. Well, I'm not going to be left out, Iris says, as she cracks the ball for Dragonite, telling it that she needs to go up there where Paul is. Reluctantly, the dragon does as her trainer asks, grabbing her and lifting her into the sky. And this leaves Marlin pondering on how exactly he's going to get up to the ruins, because normally he's used to swimming down to them, not going up in the air to try and get to them. It's here we pan up to see Paul on Seismitoad's back as it slowly scales the side of the ruins, making its way to the platform above. As he inches closer and closer, the black stone begins to resonate harder and harder, warning Paul of impending danger. This is where Iris on Dragonite's back pulls up to Paul and Seismitoad, asking what the plan is. Paul says it's simple. Whatever Giovanni is planning, we stop it and get this Meloetta back. Solid plan, Iris says, as they bridge the top of the ruins, staying out of sight, trying to get any type of vantage point on Team Rocket and what they're doing. After scouting about for a while, Paul and Iris are able to make their way to the front of the ruins. It's here they see Giovanni holding that mirror that he found in Reversal Mountain, and Meloetta on some sort of altar. Iris begins to ask a question as Boss Rocket begins to speak, forcing Paul to tell her to be quiet. They need to hear this. Today is the day we've been waiting for since we came to the Unova region. Everything that you guys have done has led to this moment, Gio says. So what is exactly supposed to happen here, Meowth says, to which Giovanni responds that this place is known as the Altar of the King. In ancient times, it's said that Meloetta gave the king the ability to control the forces of nature themselves, and with it, they ruled over a power that no one dare challenge. It is my aim to recapture this power and use it to crush people in my way like that Noose's Team Plasma. Well, exactly how does it work, James asks, to which Giovanni says, let me show you, with a sadistic smile. With Meloetta on its place on the altar, Giovanni then sets the mirror directly across from it. Meloetta's reflection appears in the glass, causing it to glow. Then what seems to be some sort of signal shoots out over the sky, expanding over the region of Unova, followed by nothing. Well, that's really anticlimactic, Jesse retorts, to which Giovanni just says, wait. Suddenly, they can feel the forces of the storm that is around them, high winds and gusts, and what feels like an earthquake on levitating ruins. Then, with a strike of thunder and a flash of light, the three forces of nature, Landorus, Thunderous, and Tornadus, appear above the ruins in the sky. This instantly brings back bad memories for Jesse, James, and Meowth, as the last time those three were around them, things got a little bit dicey, and the twerp isn't here to save them. However, Giovanni simply chuckles. It's time. My plans have finally come full fruition. By ordering the forces of nature to look into their reflection in the reveal glass, Giovanni triggers something primal in them, causing them to contort, reverting them to a form that doesn't seem natural to what they've displayed in the past. At this action, two things happen. The first is that Meloetta is then jolted awake by a sudden shock of pain, signifying somehow there is an energy link between it and the three forces of nature. And the second thing is, these forces of nature have their power exponentially increased as they begin to influence the storm around them, as the winds gust violently and lightning strikes all around everyone. This leaves us panning over to Paul and Iris. The black stone is resonating intently. These creatures are not something that Paul or her can let unleashed upon the world. All of Zekrom's thoughts and its feelings are flooding into our hero. He knows the time for hiding is over. He has to confront Giovanni, but they need a plan. This is where Paul turns to Iris, telling her they need to break up the trio. If they try to fight them all at once, then things will be impossible. But if they can get them alone, then they will have a chance. Well, what do you want me to do? Iris says. This is where Paul tells her that he will be the distraction, and it's going to be her job to use Dragonite and draw the attention of the other two. Lead them both down to the ocean level where Marlin can battle one of them. You two keep them as far apart from each other as possible, while I and my Pokemon handle the third one. It's here that Paul releases both Gastrodon and Sigilyph, telling them that he's going to need their help. It's up to Sigilyph to find a way to break Meloetta out of its confinements, while Gastrodon is going to run defense for the trainer. It's time to use a little bit of that counter shield technique he stole from Ash back in Sinnoh. With the plan in place, Iris takes off on Dragonite, readying her position, while Paul walks out to confront Giovanni. It's not hard to get Boss Rocket's attention, as the sight of Paul is something that he is a little bit infuriated with. This boy has been nothing but a nuisance in his side. However, that's going to end today, Giovanni says, as he orders the 3 Therian legendaries to attack their new prey. The first up is Thundurus, as it strikes down with a thunder attack. However, Paul's plan is set into full motion, with Gastrodon putting up a counter shield protecting its trainer. This also blocks the other 2 incoming attacks. It's here that Paul goads Boss Rocket. What's the matter? I thought these were supposed to be legendary Pokemon, yet they can't get past a simple Gastrodon? Oh, I'll show you the power of legendaries, Giovanni says, as he orders all 3 of them to strike at once. This is where Iris comes in, as she bolts down on Dragonite's back, taking out one of the legendaries, pulling it down to the sea, where Marlin has been patiently waiting, only to find Iris with the Pokemon and tail saying, "Here you go, Marlin, this one's for you." Dragonite then uses its superior speed to evade an attack from Tornadus, drawing the ire of Wailord, to which Marlin can only say that this isn't cool. He wasn't ready for that kind of fight. However, Wailord speaks to the contrary, as it bursts a giant stream of water from its spout in the form of the attack that strikes Tornadus, making Wailord the sole target of its aggression. Over with Iris, her and Dragonite are back up on top again, this time drawing the attack of Thundurus. Dragonite uses Thunder Punches to deflect the attacks of the legendary, as its trainer sits on the back of the dragon, taunting Thundurus that her dragon is far more powerful than it could ever hope to be. This sends the electric type into a frenzy as it takes off, trying to attack Dragonite. Iris tells Dragonite they need to hurry. They have to pull Thundurus as far away from the other 2 as possible. With that, it takes out over the open ocean, heading into the storm. This just leaves Giovanni with the third force of nature, Landorus. So, you hope to weaken me by splitting up my 3 legendaries. Well, I got news for you. In these new forms, nothing you do can stand to their power. Oh, I'll have to disagree, Paul says, as he pulls out the black orb, initiating the transformation between Electivire and Zekrom. Didn't you learn last time, boy? That won't work against me, especially when I'm in possession of this, Giovanni says as he holds up the mirror. You know, I've had some time to think about that, and after seeing what happened here, I've come to a conclusion. The only way that mirror is actually going to be of any use to you is if you keep it on that altar. I have a theory that if it leaves that place for whatever reason, then that means that your transformations of these legendaries are going to weaken and eventually fade, giving us a chance to take back over. Would you risk your 1 trump card in the name of trying to gain an advantage? Geo simply laughs. What kind of fool do you take me for? You actually think I would fall for your trick of trying to get me to actually take the mirror off? I would never risk anything like that, especially when I have full control. Look at this. As long as Meloetta and the mirror in place, my beasts will reign supreme. And first I will take out you, and then I'll move on to the rest of Unova, restoring the glory of Team Rocket. Well, if you're so confident in the power of your legendaries, let's test it against mine, Paul says, as he orders Electivire to use a fusion bolt. The Dragon Oni draws in all the surrounding electricity as it charges for one of its most powerful attacks, only for Giovanni to laugh. He can't believe the arrogance of this kid, and him thinking that Landorus would be affected by an electric type move like that. However, Giovanni proves to be an arrogant one, as this was merely a distraction, allowing Electivire to get in close, so that way it can attack with the move that it truly wanted to. A brick break that cracks the legendary on the head, causing it to falter in its levitation. You think I don't know my type matchups, old man? That's something even the most basics of trainers know. I, per se, don't really care about type matchups. All I care about is the ability to win, which I'm very confident that Electivire is going to. Paul's attitude towards the whole situation causes something in Giovanni to boil over. His frustration with this kid has reached the point to where he can't take it anymore. The pure insolence of this brat is something that Giovanni will no longer tolerate. It's at this point that something happens. Giovanni's eyes begin to glow red, as do Landorus's and Thunderus's and Tornadus's. All three legendaries begin to glow in a rage-filled aura, and then begin attacking randomly, destroying anything around them, doesn't matter friend or foe, causing whatever havoc that they can. Luckily for Paul and Electivire, Gastrodon is there to provide a counter shield protecting it from any type of weather attacks that come its way. Though he is blind with rage, the sight of Paul evading every one of the attacks from his legendaries is enough to send Giovanni into a frenzy, which in turn influences the legendaries even more, sending them on a whirlwind trip to destroy anything and everything in sight. The surrounding storm begins to intensify, closing in on the ruins that float above the ocean. This is where the waters again become choppy, and Wailord is unable to keep up with the swimming as it is battling the legendary Tornadus. This gives the Wind Rider the ability to overtake the giant whale with a hurricane that strikes it, sending it to the bottom of the ocean. Over with Iris, the intensity of the thunder clouds are not working to her favors, as now Dragonite is not only being forced to dodge the attacks of Thundurus, but also the wild lightning strikes of the surrounding weather. While her dragon is fast, it's still not fast enough to evade, and eventually it and its trainer are struck down, sending them careening into the waves below. This just leaves us with Paul, as Electivire is busy trying to subdue Landorus and its rage before it destroys the very platform that they stand on. Unfortunately for our hero, the scuffle between his Pokemon and the legendary is too much for him to try and get to Giovanni's area. He doesn't have the way around to try and get to the glass and free Meloetta or the reveal glass. However, this is where Sigilyph comes in. It has made its way to Meloetta, trying to use its psychic powers to break whatever link that is had on this legendary Pokemon. Unfortunately, the energy feedback from the reveal glass is way too strong, and Sigilyph just doesn't have the power to fulfill what its trainer desires. This results in the psychic type being overtaken, as it is shocked and knocked unconscious. Realizing there's really only one chance, Paul tells Gastrodon that he needs to get to that altar. Use its ability for the counter shield to protect him at all costs. The sea slug plants itself firmly on the ground. As Paul takes off, it fires its counter shield to evade any stray lightning bolts and help defer the two clashing Pokemon away from its trainer. With a stroke of luck, or just a miracle, Paul is able to make his way around the battle, over to the altar where Giovanni stands. However, the intelligent person that Paul was goading into all this is now just a senseless, mindless beast, babbling nonsense as he drools from the mouth. His mind has been consumed by the power of the reveal glass. This all but confirms Paul's suspicion as to what the reveal glass truly is. It is a device that shows the true self of whoever is within its reflection. For the legendaries, it showed these transformations. When it was around Electivire, when it was fused, it defused him, forcing him back to its regular form. And then Paul looks at Meloetta from the glass. He notices something. Meloetta doesn't look the same as when it's on the table. Is it possible, he thinks? This is where Paul gets an idea. He's going to need Electivire's help, but there is a slight problem. He notices the other two forces of nature coming in as they begin to attack Electivire from the sky. They have no choice. They have to do it now. Electivire, I need you to use Bolt Strike. Aim for the mirror. The Oni looks over at Paul, realizing that its trainer is extremely close to its target. For a second, it begins to question the orders. However, Paul tells it he knows. Just do it. Without a second thought, the Oni begins to charge as much electricity as it can as it bolts up into the sky, leaving all of the legendaries pondering what happens next. Although Paul knows all too well, as he returns Sigilyph and runs for whatever cover he can find. Just as he gets off of the altar, Electivire comes crashing down, shattering the entire shrine that levitates above the ocean into two separate pieces. The force of this strike is enough to cause a defusion between Electivire and the Black Stone, as well as shatter the mirror, returning the three forces of nature to their ordinary forms. Giovanni, from the stress of the situation, falls unconscious, leaving Jesse, James, and Meowth to gather their boss and find a way off of this rock before it sinks. Paul looks around him. Both Electivire and Gastrodon are completely out of energy. He returns his two Pokemon as the ruins begin to fall towards the water. Just as he braces for impact, he notices one shard of the mirror at his feet. This may come in handy, he says, as he picks it up, pocketing it for later. However, this action could cost him, as both sides of the ruins come careening down into the water with a giant splash, just as Iris and Dragonite fly overhead, looking for their friend. The last thing she sees is the ruins sink below the waves, with no sign of Paul in sight. This brings Iris to tears, as she doesn't know what's going on. But luckily for her and Dragonite, Wailord and Marlin emerge from the depths with Paul in tow. While he's a little bit beaten up, and currently unconscious, he will be alright. Iris quickly heads down to Waylord, embracing both Marland and Paul, thankful that they are alright. This brings Paul too, only for him to request that Iris release him. She does so, as she lets happy tears erupt from her eyes. Later that night, at the Pokemon Center, Iris is talking with Paul, trying to make sure that he's okay. Paul insists that he's fine. He's never been better. He's just glad that this whole mess with Team Rocket is out of the way. But now, they have to find Ash, because there's still one set of people that are looking for the orbs of Unova, and that is Team Plasma, Paul says, as he holds the shard of the reveal glass in his hand. And that is where we are going to end our story for today. So tell me, how did you feel about this part? Did you enjoy the way that I put a spin on the Rocket arc using Paul and Electivire instead of Ash and Pikachu? I really enjoyed telling that part of the story, considering you don't really get a perspective of a rival becoming a main character. How did you feel about Paul and him bringing back his Gastrodon to help with the counter shield technique to provide some sort of support? And what happened to Meloetta? Was it still attached to the ruins as it went under? Also, what's going to become of Giovanni? Will he be coming back to seek revenge against Paul and Electivire? And what kind of importance is that shard of the reveal glass going to play? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that or custom art is getting kind of expensive. So we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.